Fantastic. Okay, so welcome. Yeah, Zoltan's recording and I'm recording. We're doing two recordings at the same time.
Oh, we are. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and we get more people coming in. Hang on. Here we go. Okay, so welcome to the Launch Code book launch event. This is a momentous occasion for Zoltan, getting to celebrate the launch of his debut book. So welcome everybody to the Launch Code Unlocked. It's my great pleasure to be here alongside Zoltan, an amazing businessman, mentor, founder, investor, and now author. So congratulations.
Thank
Round
you.
of applause in silence because everyone's put themselves on mute. But thank you for putting yourself on mute. I was going to say, if you can, just so there's no kind of random baby noises or dogs barking in the background, that does help. At the end, we are going to do a Q&A. So you are very welcome to put questions into the chat box throughout. So if something sparks your interest and you think, actually, I would like to ask a question about that, you're very welcome to put it in the chat box and we'll make sure that we can ask it at the end. And also at the end, we will ask you if you want to unmute and actually ask a question, be bold enough to ask a question to Zoltan, then you're absolutely welcome to do that as well. So just a very quick introduction to myself in case any of you are wondering who the hell I am, because you probably are, let's face it. My name is Helen Lewis and I'm the director of the book marketing and author branding agency called Literally. We're based in London in the UK and we've worked on more than 750 campaigns over the past 15 years. Each one's very different. And it is my pleasure, as I say, to be here with Zoltan. It is a massive landmark moment to celebrate a book. Like I say, everyone says they have a book in them, but not many people manage to actually write that book, to make the book really good. And I don't just mean in terms of the content, but in terms of the packaging. And for any of you that have already got a copy of the launch code, you'll see that it's a really good quality book. So we're going to start with a conversation with Zoltan about the key messages in the launch code. And then we have two founders who have actually worked on the launch code with Zoltan. So we've got Simon Neal from CampMap and we've got Aleksander Niemczyk from Ruby Logic. They're waving very kindly. So we're all here for the next hour, so at about 6 o'clock in the UK, to celebrate the launch code, which is officially on sale today. So I've put a link into the chat box so you can actually click it and buy it if you haven't already. And we're going to have a really good, lively, hopefully, conversation around all the different themes and topics that are in the launch code without giving too much away, because obviously we want you to buy the book and read it, right? So I'm going to introduce Zoltan for those of you who are new to Zoltan, or perhaps you just need a bit of a refresher. So Zoltan is, quite honestly, unlike any client I've had the privilege to work with, his experience in launching businesses and helping founders really is second to none. He has generated $2 billion in sales over his 30 years as a C-suite executive and entrepreneur. He's helped more than 200 startups in over 26 countries who have basically managed to close really high ticket deals using the launch code, which is seriously impressive. And this is his proprietary sales framework. It's also the foundation of his book on founder-led sales. And Zoltan blends the discipline of corporate planning with the agility of entrepreneurial execution to support founders in achieving their goals. He's worked in the media and tech industries in New York, Los Angeles, London, Budapest. He's overseen businesses based in Europe, Asia, Latin America, the US. He's worked at media companies like NBC Universal, CBS, how do you pronounce that, Zoltan?
ProSiebenSat.1.
There we are. Better than I said it. And he oversaw hundreds of millions in revenue and led teams of over 1,000 employees. He's also launched multiple media and tech businesses, achieving successful exits as a founder and investor. And he's the chairman of Antavo, an enterprise SaaS tech company. So Zoltan was born and raised in the States, and he's now based in London and Budapest. You're in Budapest right now, Zoltan?
I am indeed, yeah.
Where he empowers entrepreneurs to turn their vision into reality. So these last 30 years have given him a global perspective on how to launch and manage businesses across borders. And now he's sharing his wealth of experience in his new book, which, as I say, officially released today, all very exciting. And it's called The Launch Code: Master Founder-Led Sales and Boost Your Startup's Revenue Growth. Okay, welcome, Zoltan.
Thank
Congratulations.
you very much, Helen. I'll tell you that resume was so impressive. I was looking around to make sure you were talking about me for a second there.
It was very least in your life, isn't
it was very
it? Well, it's
extravagant.
quite
Thank you very
impressive,
much.
let's be honest. I mean, so tell us what inspired you to write the launch code, and why is now the right time in your life and in the world for this?
Yeah. Look, I think the Launch Code book for me is some combination of destiny and discovery. Destiny because I grew up in a family of authors, but my parents were prolific authors. They published something like 25 books between them, mostly history books, a couple of historical novels as well. So you could say that it's somewhat in my DNA that big ideas belong in books. And so I think that's probably one of the reasons why I wrote this book. The other is much more pragmatic in the sense that when I left my sort of last corporate role 9 years ago at NBC Universal, I started to really on a whim help mentor early stage founders and through these various accelerator programs. And one of the things that I realized very quickly was that I was meeting these incredibly enthusiastic, interesting, product focused entrepreneurs who believed a lot in their business, but really didn't know how to sell and market their products to paying customers. And as I started working with them, I started identifying certain elements that were missing, that they didn't really articulate their message very clearly, that they didn't really have a structured approach to selling. They didn't understand how they were going to scale their operations. And so it was through this experience that I ultimately began this effectively advisory business or consulting business that it's now reached over 200 founders across 26 countries, as you had said before. And I think the book itself is the product of just the understanding and the insight that there's been some amazing stories of transformation that I experienced over the course of working with these founders, including two of the founders that you'll be hearing from today. And I just thought, it's just something that I think could really help a lot of other people who find themselves in similar situations. And what better way to share that in a long-lasting, meaningful way than through a book? And the question, why now? Well, it's interesting. I think if I had to pinpoint one moment in time that gave me that spark to say, okay, I've got to write a book about this, was actually an experience I had with Simon, who's on the call here today. It was the spring of 2023, and I speaking at an event conference in Slovenia in southeastern Europe. And Simon and I had worked together the previous year, and I don't think we'd actually met in person until that day. And I went up to him, and we were having drinks, and I said, "Oh, Simon, how's things going? How's your business going?" He said, "Zoltan, you literally saved my business." And I thought, wow, obviously very flattering and very great to hear. But he then went on to tell me how he'd applied all the principles we'd worked on to basically start really building a lot of traction and sales for his business. And I thought to myself, that's a great story. I've got to write a book around that. And actually, that's the first opening story, I think, of chapter one, that hopefully many of the people on this call and others will read.
Amazing. So what exactly is the launch code then, and how does it differ from other sort of sales and marketing frameworks that you've?
Well, look, I think, there's a lot of sales books out there, so I wouldn't want to say that this is some, revolutionary new approach to selling. I think it captures a lot of the fundamentals that need to be in place in order for a business-to-business sales process to be successful. The first pillar of the system, as well as the book, is really about focusing your offer message so customers understand why they should buy what you're selling. So having a clear value proposition, presenting your product offering in a simple, clear way, communicating with clients in a way that engages them. So that's kind of the first pillar. The second pillar is structuring your client acquisition so you close more deals with less effort. So using various channels, outbound sales, inbound marketing, partnerships to generate successful deals with clients. And the third pillar is scale your operations so you as a founder can empower your team and focus on strategy. What are the elements of goal setting, of tracking your performance, of team development that prepare you to scale? That, in a nutshell, is what the launch code is and what the book really breaks out. So it is a step-by-step guide in that sense. But there is one element which I think sets it apart from a lot of other books. And it precisely speaks to that change of mindset or the transformation I described earlier. I've noticed over the course of these last 5 years that a lot of the founders that I worked with at the beginning were very fearful of selling. They were unsure about it. They weren't particularly confident about their abilities. And simply by following this blueprint, they transformed into people who I think not only didn't fear sales, but actually leaned into it and appreciated its value. And that I think is the greatest element that I tried to bring to life in this book is just examples and stories of the mindset shift you have to go through and that you can go through if you commit yourself to learning how to sell. And I hope that's something that's going to come across for readers of the book.
And how does it differ then from the other work that you're doing around the launch code? So you've got like a video course, you've got workshops, you've got your mentoring program. What's the
right
different edge with the book?
Well, I mean, I think it's probably a little bit more story driven. In other words, there's a lot of examples and case studies and specific instances where you kind of bring these elements to life. So, I'll talk about how do you develop your product offering, provide kind of three different ways to approach that. I give examples of companies that have applied that. So, in that sense, it's not just a bunch of information that you then say, okay, well, I got to figure out how to apply it. It's like it's brought to life through that through the text of the book. Um, I think that the readers who put their time and effort into reading this book are going to find it to be not just a bunch of platitudes and kind of fluff, but real meaningful um, elements of business they can apply immediately to scaling their startup.
And who then you talked about the readers. So who is like the target reader? Who's the ideal reader of the
Well,
launch?
I think it's the type of reader who, first of all, it's focused on founder-led sales, right? So I'm talking really to founders of businesses, entrepreneurs who are engaged in the process of building a business. I think that's the first quality. The second quality is it's most likely going to be relevant for people who aren't very comfortable with selling, right? They either
Yep.
fear it or they don't understand it. So they really see this as an opportunity to learn how to sell. But even more importantly, and I say this very explicitly in the book, is that I wrote this book for entrepreneurs, not hustlers.
Yeah.
And I purposely emphasize that because I think we live in a culture today of quick wins, of overnight successes, of do these three things on Instagram, and all of a sudden you'll have an orange Lamborghini with a model girlfriend by your side. That's kind of the image that a lot of sales and entrepreneurship sort of guides deliver. This is not that, right? This is about putting in the work and doing something that you're passionate about and that you care about. It's not overnight success, which frankly might be a turnoff for some people, right? Because they think that they push the sell button, all of a sudden it works. Unfortunately, in the same way that only a few people in the world hit the lottery, very few people actually build a business that way. You have to put in the work, and I think this really gives you the guide that you can follow to be successful in delivering the sales that ultimately will help you build the business that you dream about.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Zoltan. We're actually going to move now on to the panel discussion element of this online book launch. So it's our pleasure to have two founders, as I said, with us this evening, who have not only applied the launch code to their businesses, but they've actually experienced transformative results and success. So first of all, I'm going to introduce Aleksander, who is a very dynamic entrepreneur. He's the CEO of Ruby Logic, an innovative development house based in Poland. With over a decade of experience in the software industry, the company has carved a niche in delivering cutting-edge solutions for manufacturers. Since 2012, Ruby Logic has been leading the way in developing tailored software solutions for production management, factory logistics, and maintenance systems, enabling factories to boost efficiency and accelerate growth. And Simon is a geoscientist who completed a master's degree in geology at Edinburgh University in Scotland in 2004. After 15 years of working in the industry across many European and Middle Eastern countries, he relocated to Croatia for a change of lifestyle, apparently. After experiencing pains when booking a camping holiday, he found Camp Map in 2020, so during the pandemic potentially. With the help of the launch code, he scaled the business into 11 countries and secured enterprise partnerships. So Aleksander and Simon, welcome. Please unmute yourselves. And thank you for accepting Zoltan's invitation to help celebrate the release of the launch code. So Simon, we're going to kick off with you, if that's okay. So if you can tell us a little bit about your Camp Map journey, and so what was your kind of main challenges prior to applying the launch code, please?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the invitation. Really nice to be here and give something back to Zoltan. I stand by the statement he said earlier. He did save our business, and I'll go through that now. So I quit my job and went full time on CapMap in 2020, and for the first 2 years, we'd been doing pretty good. Product was okay. We were selling into our local market really well. We were growing nicely. Everything seemed to be easy, and this isn't a big challenge. I had a sales team, I had a sales manager, but there's a few key things in there that I missed. And one of them was we were selling at a low price to get early traction. This was part of our strategy, so that was making things a bit easier. But also, we were relying completely on the I know a guy sales model. So our sales manager had a great network in Croatia here. He was selling, 2 new customers a week. I thought, fantastic, this is going to be great. And by middle end 2022, the plan was, right, let's expand the market. Let's go into Germany, UK, France, Italy. these markets are all 10, 20, 30 times bigger than Croatia. We're going to take off and everything's going to be fine. So that's where we were. About 3 weeks later, it turned into a complete disaster. So a couple of things happened all at the same time. We had investment that went right to the last stage. And just prior to this, to say a bit to JC, they've been funding us for a couple of years, keeping us going on this model. But, we needed to find other investment to keep us going. And that basically fell through last minute. Then my sales manager quit. I think deep down inside, he knew he couldn't take us outside of his local market. And basically, we had 3 months of cash left. We had a whole team there and no plan B. So it's exactly, it's literally, one of those moments where you look at yourself and say, right, what do we do? And just that summer, I'd completed the launch code with Zoltan, and we were already kind of in the process of implementing that into our sales structure. But it was just a decision, okay, the only thing we can do is sell to survive. So I just looked at the whole team, reassigned people from their normal tasks. Okay, now you're research selling, you're a salesperson, now you're making email marketing, you're filling the CRM. And we just went through the whole process and got everybody functioning in a structured approach. We got our product offering sorted out. We went simple. We got 3 subscription models going. We had an onboarding fee, which completely changed how we're selling before, which meant revenue went up. We changed our contracting, so it was easier for businesses to sign a deal with us. And then we just implemented and we tracked everything we did. We learned from what we did. And the cash went down and then it went to 0, up a bit, and then it kind of stayed flat for 6 months. And every month we were just surviving by selling. And it was really implementing all these parts of Launch Code that allows us to keep going. So that was kind of the barrier that we had, and that was the launch code that helped take us past that barrier.
So when you went past that 6 months of kind of living hand to mouth, month to month, what happened after that?
Yeah, so then we got a little bit of extra investment to give us a buffer. We applied for some EU funding. That started to come through, but then really we started to push more and more the launch code, and we started to expand. So we're actually becoming more and more successful. So we went into Europe. We got all the biggest European camping markets. And now we also pushed into the US. And I think, by getting the team functioning based on Zoltan's principles was great. But then you can start to become, more confident. You start to get more inbound sales as well. You start to build partnerships. So in that time, we also create a partnership with the biggest enterprise in outdoor hospitality in the world. We're now implementing our technology into the whole product offering as well. So yeah, we've done great. I mean, we're still early stage. We're still at risk. We still have good days, bad days, but we are growing. And I think the biggest thing I can say is I'm completely comfortable now. I'm not a great natural salesman. I don't have the gift of the gab. I can't charm people, but I know the fundamentals of how to sell. And I have sales calls every week. I actually enjoy them. I can make sales. I know how to look for problem solution connections, desired outcomes, all of this stuff. So it's completely transformed my ability as a founder, and it's transformed our team's ability to grow and sell.
Amazing. Wow. I mean, how much did he pay you to say that? That was so impressive. Like that was the perfect testimonial, Zoltan, wasn't it? Like
it was indeed. Well, Simon's been a very big supporter since the start, and it's fantastic to hear this, obviously, because it makes a lot of the effort that you put into working with folks like Simon and Alexander as well just worth it, right? I mean, this is the dream scenario when you can add value and really transform people's lives or livelihoods.
It's incredible. I mean, so Zoltan, what did the journey look like from your perspective when you sort of first met Simon and took him through the launch code? Tell us about that from your side.
Yeah, I think there were 2 things that I took away from the experience. So Simon was a good student in the sense that I remember when we were going through all of the different elements. The way I did the program with Simon is I went through the whole mentorship program where each week we went through a different module, he applied it, we went back and so on. So it was kind of the high end offer, so to speak. And I think what I noticed there that Simon was very good at following up, at doing exactly what we did. And I think that when we ended the program, he sort of acknowledged the value of it, but he probably didn't lean into it as much as he should have. And so there was that bit of a gap that he talked about where going into the fall, things weren't happening. And I think the takeaway for me was, first of all, he followed the principles, right? So it wasn't the question of like, well, we could do a bit of this, a bit of that. It was like, okay, here's the system. The second of all, there's a point at which he committed to applying it. And I think that's such an important lesson for founders, is that it's not enough just to kind of know what you want to do. It's just as important, in fact, probably more important, that you execute what you want to do, right? So you really follow through on execution. I think the way that Simon has described is a great example of just like really leaning into it. And remind me, Simon, you guys were in 1 or 2 markets. Now you're in 11 markets or something like that, or 11, 12 markets, I
Yeah.
recall.
So we grew internationally without any problem. Had about 100% year-on-year revenue growth. And yeah, just we have a great process now. It just functions, and it's just
Yeah.
about pushing that and tracking and keeping innovating still.
Yeah. And so I think that's a really good, because so many founders, especially from Europe and Central and Eastern Europe in general, their big dream is to grow internationally. And I think this is one of those approaches that gets you there faster, because it just cleans up your entire messaging. It cleans up your approach to sales in a way that you can apply it easily to different markets. And I think that's a good kind of key element of it all.
Amazing. Simon, is there anything else you want to add, or anything you want to?
No. I think that's it. Covered it
Yeah. Well,
all at the
thank you.
moment. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing. I mean, I don't think there's anything more that you could say that would be better than that. So thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. So moving on to you, Aleksander, if you want to unmute yourself. So it'd be great to get a glimpse of your journey as well. So, what were your primary challenges before applying the launch code?
Okay, so hello everyone. Thanks for having me here. Our situation was a little bit different, because we started as a development house, and we made money on bespoke software. But I always wanted to have a SaaS product, because I believe in this saying that if you are not earning money while you are asleep, you're gonna end up broke. So sorry, broke. And yeah, so I was motivated to start a SaaS product, and that was the beginning of Action Plan. Exactly, not Action Audit, but Action Plan then. And that was the software dedicated for companies, for manufacturers, that was like an all-in-one solution. And it did everything when it comes to daily operational management. Yeah, so it streamlined all these processes. But it was the initial problem of this software. We found it hard to explain to customers what was the real value that it gives. Yeah, what is the value proposition? What is our offering? Yeah, so it worked great with our initial 3 customers. But we were struggling to get on another customers. And yeah, it was every sales calls went like this, that, yeah, hello customer, we got this brilliant product that will solve your problems. Yeah. The answer was, yeah, it sounds great. We'll call you back. Yeah. As you may assume, there were no calls. We are sending some kind of dumb follow-ups. Yeah. And 0% success rate. And at this point, I must admit that I didn't even know the meaning of the phrase value proposition. Yeah, so we couldn't reach customers. We couldn't explain. We knew that the product was great, but we couldn't explain it. Yeah, so that was the biggest problem we had before. Yeah. Plus, the sales department wasn't existing at all. Yeah, so those were the kind of problems. And then we met Zoltan. Actually, I met Zoltan on this hybrid event in Wrocław. I was joining online. He was on site. I couldn't hear anything. Yes.
I remember
What are you saying? Yeah, it was disaster. Yeah, the connection was so bad that I wasn't even sure what he was offering. Yeah. And then we scheduled a follow-up call, and Zoltan explained me the framework. Yeah, and I thought, maybe it would work for Action Plan. Yeah. Those workshops of Zoltan consist of several meetings. The first panel is about creating and defining value proposition, and it's supposed to take so long, yeah. I need this one sentence and then crafting this one sentence, yeah, to explain in one sentence what the product is doing. And yeah, after the second meeting, at the end of the second meeting, we still didn't have anything. And then Zoltan asked me, so maybe tell me what is the main functionality your customers are looking for, yeah? I said, auditing, yeah? And then we immediately pivoted from Action Plan being all-in-one solution to Action Audit being a solution that resolves one specific problem, yeah? And streamlining the auditing process in factories. I would go into details about how important audits are in factories, but yeah, there are, and our customers are aware of this. And yeah, it was like bullseye and a shifting point. From then on, we could easily explain the value proposition, the offerings. Yeah, we could. This understanding was fast, was deeper, and yeah, it was much easier to go on with those sales meetings and with getting more customers. Yeah, so getting from 3 customers to 6 took us like a year, and then getting from 6 customers to over 60 took us 2 years. Yeah, so
Wow.
that was the initial result. Yeah, and we also adjusted a lot of our processes. Yeah, before I was the only salesman, and yeah, I spent like 5% of my time selling and taking care of marketing. Now it takes me like 60% of my time. There is also a sales team incorporated in the company. The revenue from income from Action Plan grew 400% in less than 3 years. We entered new markets, and recently we also entered the US market, which is a pinnacle for us. Yeah, because maybe even Southeast Asia is a better market for manufacturers, but yeah, we find it hard. So now we are aiming to be present in the US market. And in autumn, we signed not only the first deal in the US, but also the biggest when it comes to of number of accounts. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, it brought a lot of positive results. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean,
That's the journey so
those
far.
numbers are really impressive, aren't they? The speed of which the growth happened after working with Zoltan. How do you enjoy selling now? Do you enjoy doing it?
I don't have any problem, and I find a lot of advantages of me being present on sales meetings. And I must say it's one of the most important and maybe a kind of hint for founders to be present to as many sales meetings as possible, because sometimes you're gonna hear one sentence or even one word that could change your product, that could initiate upgrade of your product. And yeah, so I'm performing 2 to 4 meetings a week, and yeah, I'm still in contact with current customers and with prospects. So yeah, it gives me possibility to drive the innovation of the product. Yeah, so yeah.
Amazing. And Zoltan, what was your sort of perspective on Aleksander's?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things I'd love to highlight from what Aleksander said. First is he talked about the difficulty at the beginning of identifying your value proposition, and that the turning point happened when we really focus on, okay, so what is the fundamental single problem that you solve? And I think that's such a good lesson, right? It's about finding that problem where you can offer not just a solution, but the perfect solution. You know, that problem solution connection I talk about a lot in the book. That's really a turning point. And I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of founders make is they try to do a bit of everything, right? So they do everything to everybody rather than one single thing for one particular type of customer. So that was a very important lesson there. The other that Aleksander reflected on is the importance of him personally taking part in sales, right? So, you know, founder-led sales is called that because it's the founder who is there and is leading the charge. And I think especially at the beginning stages of a company, a founder has to lean into the sales process. It's how they are going to learn what their customers want. That's how they can take the feedback and integrate it back into the product and into their own development plans. It's such a critical part of the process. And founders who avoid that, partly maybe because they are uncomfortable with it or they think it's not important, are really doing themselves a disservice, because they're never really going to be able to grow the business in the way they can until they actually do it themselves. And then they already know what type of person they should hire eventually to take that role over, because they will have done it themselves. And just to see what the impact of doing it this way can have. If you allow me just to share my screen, this is the when I decided to do the book, what I did is I started reaching out to my former clients to kind of get a sense of what they've been up to, and obviously get some more information and detail that I could use in the book. And Aleksander sort of, I remember we were having this conversation, Aleksander, you remember, and you were saying, oh well, I asked him, so what impact has this had on your business? And he said, wait, hold on a second, and he showed a graph to me, and I ended up using this in a social media post. I don't know if you remember this, Aleksander. We started working on as the launch code in something in November of 21, so this is 22, and I guess we had a conversation in April of 24, and in the space of that kind of 2 years, this was the revenue growth that he had experienced using the launch code. So it was such a wow moment for me, because it really was such a clear indication that this this really worked if you applied it correctly.
That's I mean, it's all there in black and white, isn't it?
Literally
That's
in black and
perfect
white.
illustration. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you both. That was, again, Aleksander, like, you couldn't have said anything nicer. So thank you so much for being so lovely and gracious. Would you like to add anything else, Zoltan, Aleksander? Are you feeling happy with how
yeah, I mean, I don't know if the gentlemen have anything to say or anything to add.
Yeah, I would like to add that we only have like 30 seconds up to 1 minute of customer's attention, yeah? So slashing those extra functionalities and focusing only on one specific problem and solution for this problem lets you catch customer's attention, yeah? And the extra benefit we got that previously we tried to offer everything in a bundle, yeah? Now we have a room to upsell, yeah, because we are offering only one functionality, and then after 3 months or 6 months, we can upsell the products and the modules that were before priced as a whole. Yeah, it's also
and that's very interesting. I think you make a very good point, Alexander, is that the importance of segmenting your offering, right? So what I talk about in the book is how you have to identify the tip of your spear, right? That single problem, that single solution that breaks through the wall. And once you've done that, then you can add all sorts of additional products and services around that. But you have to have that one thing that gets you through the door. Otherwise, it's trying to break through the door, hitting your head against the wall. You're just not going to get through.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Aleksander and Simon, like, where you're at right now today in the business, and maybe perhaps you could tell us a little bit about what your future plans are as well, just so we can get a bit more of a picture of what's happening today. Is that okay? Simon, would you like to start with that, please?
Yeah, sure. So I think we have a big foundation now of customers around the world, but we're actually changing our go-to-market strategy a bit to go more through partnerships than direct sales. So this kind of fits the way our product is evolving. And I think it's nice that we have the foundation of the current customers and the way we attracted them to then kind of shift that towards a partnership model. So it's the same approach. It's just a different ideal customer profile, different messaging setup. So we're kind of adjusting to that now, and that's our future plan. And that's actually already starting to work. So it shows, the structure, this framework can be applied across multiple different customer types and products, even within the same company. And we're showing that now that we are pivoting a bit, and that's going to be our route to really the bigger growth than we've had until present.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Aleksander, where are you at now? Where's the business at now, and what's the plan? What's the future looking like?
So we first of all we have to strengthen more and more partnerships and find partners not only in Poland and in Germany that we already have, but also in the US. And so that's one of the main focus. And I think that all of you are aware that we are in a turning point of technology. Yeah. So without improving the product, in 3 years there will be no action audit. Yeah. So we have to catch up. We have to innovate. We have to make this product even better, and embracing AI technology and making it easier and proactive, and like a second pair of eyes for auditors is also one of our main focus. Yeah, because you know that programmers will be irrelevant and not needed in 3 years time. Yeah, so we have to catch up and to be still in the front of this race. Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure.
Helen, if I could just reflect on both of these guys talked about partnerships, and I think that's such an important element of sales, right? It's how do you collaborate with others to improve your reach and your credibility. Obviously, early stage founders often suffer from a lack of both, right? They don't have enough broad reach in their network, and they don't necessarily have the credibility that comes with working with a company that's years old.
Yeah.
And I think, I talk a lot about this book about partnerships are, on the one hand, identifying the right partner to work with, and I talk about how you would do that and what the processes you go through, but also how do you manage a partnership for success. Getting a partnership done, it doesn't end when you sign the deal. It's actually just the start. It's really how do you engage with partners so that they really put you at a different level. How do you engage them in your business? How do you share information with them? How do you engage with them on an ongoing basis so that you know what they're up to? How do you integrate elements of performance that gives them a motivation to deliver the best results? So these are all very important parts of partnership that I think founders need to keep in mind as they look to expand their own channel, sales acquisition channels.
Thank you. Zoltan, what would be one actionable takeaway from the launch code that attendees could implement immediately to see some results?
Yeah, I think that the single most important principle I think that comes through every page is the concept of focus, right? It's that idea that you can't be everything to everybody. You can't do everything at once. You have to, figure out where you focus your limited time and resources. And, I talk about Steve Jobs, who's kind of a legend, and as not only as an entrepreneur, but as somebody who's obviously built one of the world's biggest, most successful companies. He used to say that focus is not necessarily deciding what you do, it's what you don't do. And that oftentimes is even more difficult, right? So I would say that the one takeaway for every entrepreneur should be, decide, as I used to have a colleague who said this, he said, choose your love and love your choice, right? Really lean into what you want to do and then follow through.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much, Aleksander and Simon, for joining us. I know you're both very busy people, so we appreciate your time, and I know that Zoltan does too, and I'm sure that we've all learned a lot from the successes and the transformation that you've experienced through working with Zoltan. So yeah, thank you so much for being part of this, a really important part of this launch event. We're going to go to questions now. We've got just over quarter of an hour left. So if anyone's got any questions and they would like to unmute themselves and ask, I have had a couple of questions come through to me as well. So I will start things off, and then hopefully you will feel like you want to get involved. You are also very welcome to you can just unmute yourself now. So Massimo has raised a hand. So if you want to just unmute yourself, you can go for it.
Yes, thank you. Happy, Zoltan, great to see you, first of all.
Good to see you as well.
And congrats.
Thank you.
It's an exciting day. So as I said, look forward to reading it all, not just the first chapter.
Okay.
I actually wanted to ask you a question as well, though. Does your launch code, let's say, mantra also applies to sellers of services? For example, in my case, I guess I consider myself a founder too, but I don't sell a product, I sell a service.
Yeah.
Call it, corporate finance, strategic, M&A advice, whatever you want to call it. So I just wonder, do you think, this, way of selling can also apply to selling a service?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's very valid. In fact, I would say that about 1/3 of the companies I work with are really professional service providers. 2/3 of startups. I focus on startups largely because I think that's where there's the biggest pain. So, the tip of my spear, so to speak, is to speak to founders who struggle with selling. But yeah, the principles of focus and structure and scale apply just as much to professional services providers. I've worked with companies that sell HR services. I've worked with companies that work, provide financial services. The three kind of pillars, focus your offer message. Again, you're selling, as I understand, of course, corporate finance or financial services. You're better off focusing on one specific problem that you solve rather than trying to be everything to everybody. How you acquire customers, obviously outbound sales, your direct sales is probably going to be your comfort zone, but being present on LinkedIn, putting your name out there, making people aware of what you offer and having them find you through inbound marketing is also a very good way for you to acquire customers. I think that maybe the one area where the two approaches differ slightly is in the scale phase, right? Because one of the natural elements of services is that they're much more difficult to scale, right? Because there's only 24 hours in the day and there's only one of you or a few of you. So I think as you develop the scalability of your business, it's probably where we also want to consider how can you productize your offering a little bit so that it becomes a little bit more scalable. But the first two pillars 100% are just as applicable to somebody in your position.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Does anybody else want to make a comment or ask a question? I have some people.
My name is Ákos.
Hello.
Yeah. Hey, Ákos.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, Zoltán, how many books you expect to sell?
That is a loaded question. I genuinely don't have expectations because I don't have enough context. I heard a statistic, which maybe puts things into perspective. They say that if you sell 1,500 books, you're already in the top 1% of business books sold on Amazon. So that means that so far I think I've sold 19 as of today. So I've got a ways to go, but I'm hoping that we'll hit that 1,000, 1,500 mark. The purpose of writing a book in this position as I'm in is really twofold. One is obviously to spread the word and to spread the knowledge to as broad a group of people as possible. The other, of course, is to use it as a way to build my own personal credibility and my marketing credibility to people like you and others around the world. So I think some combination of sold books and that credibility will make this journey worthwhile for me.
If all those people knew what's in that book, you should sell 100,000.
Well, you experienced some of it. Do you want to share your thoughts?
Oh, wow. Thank you. So, yeah, of course. Why not?
Ákos is a former client of mine as well, just so you know. And by the way, more of a professional services provider rather than a typical startup. So maybe you can speak to what Massimo said, yeah? Or asked.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I could use big words like it transformed my life and it changed my thinking. My favorite part of it, I mean, all of it is an integral thing. But my biggest favorite, and I think we heard about that today already, is the value proposition. Until you know what's your value proposition, you make so many mistakes. And my company tried to sell multiple things at the same time to multiple clients, to multiple personas within the client. And working with Zoltán and the Launch Code helped me create that tip of the spear. And that really transforms everything behind it, all the focus, where you put your time, what you work on, what you do in marketing, what you do in sales, a lot of things. So yeah, my company is underway. We did not yet experience a huge growth in revenues, but it's the foundations that we are recreating right now. And yeah, as you said, Zoltán, going to foreign markets is on our agenda too, but now we will have a completely different approach.
Amazing.
Great. Thanks very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've sold quite a few copies, I think, during the course of this event.
Yeah, I'm seeing these things. I'm seeing them pop up, so that's good.
Just to add to that, so in my experience of working in this book industry for a long old time, the average statistic is that the average self-published book sells no more than 25 copies in its lifetime.
Oh my God, I might hit that tonight.
And you've already done that. Didn't you sell that many in the event on the weekend? So yeah, I mean, I think you've already smashed it. Has anyone else got a question, Tibor? I think you had. your hand up. Would you like to?
Yes, thank you. I already told Zoltan in person that I enjoyed so much the first chapter of his book that I immediately wanted to read the next chapters. So I already booked your book, and I have problems to get it to my mobile, but I hope I will sort it out, or I'll buy a printed version. Anyway, I wanted to ask you, Zoltan, I already mentioned to you that I hired first salesman when we were forming the product, and he was not able to sell features that we plan to implement in the future. So actually, I had to fire that salesman and do the sales myself. That's why I find your book so relevant. But my question to you is, when is the right time to hire another salesman that would help me as a founder? And how should I motivate this person to really perform at their best? Because I see my motivation is far higher than anyone I
Well,
hire.
that's what makes you a founder, right? And not an employee.
Yes, exactly.
Well, look, I don't think there's an exact answer to this, because you're asking me, at what point in time you should hire a sales manager. I think to reflect on the problem, because what you describe is a very typical situation I've come across in a lot of times with working with my clients, is that they're in a position where okay, we've got the product, yeah, we think roughly what we're going to do, we know what we're going to do, and we hire somebody based on a very impressive CV with relevant background, maybe a couple of brand name companies, works in technology, everything's great. And you figure, okay, if this person can sell at Oracle, they can sell us. It's easy enough. There's a big assumption, I think, that you have to overcome is it's very different selling something with a brand name company behind your back than it is selling something that's just starting out. It's just a very different process. And so I would hire somebody that's in that mindset of rolling up their sleeves and getting really deep into the sales process, rather than somebody who's used to inheriting a lot of the structure and a lot of the process and everything, right? So that's one of the lessons I think a lot of people have to learn, is hire more for attitude than for CV. When you do that, obviously depends on so many factors, but I would say as a general rule, a founder should be selling at least 12, maybe 18 months, and they should have closed at least 7, 8 deals themselves in order to understand the process, understand their customers, and understand what type of person they should hire with what skill set. If you can close that 8 deals in 2 months, of course, that's fine. If it takes you a year and a half, it depends a little bit on this ticket size, right? If you're selling something for 100,000 euros or 10,000 euros, it makes a big difference as well. But I would say something like 12 to 18 months would be a minimum expectation. And the great thing is, once you've gone through that, there shouldn't be a lot of surprises. You should have a pretty clear idea of what works, what doesn't, what messaging is going to have an impact with customers, what isn't. It should be a lot easier to onboard somebody into a sales role as well, because you will have done it yourself.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Makes sense. Thanks.
Fantastic, thank you. We've got time for another question. If anyone has a burning question they would like to get some free advice from Zoltan.
That's right.
I mean,
can I ask? Sorry, and it's more for Aleksander and Simon. Like, is there any techniques or like sayings what you learned from Zoltan that sticks with you day to day that you implement in your decision-making processes? Like, clear value proposition, but like I know he always says like you only have 8 seconds to sell your product. So is there anything else you like have kind of like a mantra or something? Or maybe even Akos, if you have something as a prior customer of Zoltan.
I could maybe jump straight in there. Absolutely. Simplify and focus. This is what we do all of the time. You have limited resources. You got to use them in the best possible way. You cannot do everything. So we really, really work hard on being simple and focused. And it makes it easier for a customer. Complexity doesn't sell, simplicity does.
Yeah. A confused mind never buys. I think I say that in the book. Yeah. It's a important lesson.
From my point of view, definitely my approach to every sales meeting. So first of all, not everyone or every company, every individual is your customer. Yeah. So the pain of rejection is smaller than, if you accept that you don't have to sell 100 times. percent of times. And yeah, also to focus on listening to customers instead of talking about the great product. Yeah, because yeah, I as every geeky founder, I was in love with my product. Yeah, and so now I'm focused on listening, and then I just try to suggest solutions instead of just talking about great features that the customer could get. Yeah.
Great.
Great to hear.
Thank you. Brilliant. Well, I think we are probably going to come to a bit of a close there, but thank you very much. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, obviously, particularly to Zoltan for writing the book in the first place, which has got us all here. Thank you to Aleksander, and thank you to Simon. I am going to share a slide now with you guys, which hopefully will be of interest to you. So I'm just going to pop the text in here, and then I will share the slide.
And I did want to take the opportunity while Helen shares the slide to thank everybody for showing up. A lot of familiar faces and friends on the screen. So it certainly is great to have you on here, and it's a great boost to my ego also. So thank you very much. I've never heard so many nice things said about me in 160. I'm gonna have to. Yeah, thankfully my wife is on the call as well, so she heard it as well.
Brilliant.
On the whole meeting.
And Mark, very old friend from college, is on as well. So yeah, it's great.
It's lovely. Well, just to add as well, just with my marketing hat on, that it's really helpful if you have got the book, if you do share a review. So whether that's on your social media, on LinkedIn or X or Instagram, or if you could then copy and paste it over to Amazon and Goodreads, all these places, it really helps. It just helps with the discoverability of a book, especially in the early days when we're really trying to get the book out to as many people as possible. So your review really, really helps. So please do put a review wherever you can, and let Zoltan know so that he can reshare it as well. That'd be amazing. But can you see the slide okay? Is that okay? Brilliant. Okay. And I have also shared the text in the chat box there. So perfect timing. We've managed to complete this within the hour and packed it full of content. So thank you to everybody who has purchased during the event as well. That's really lovely to see. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your evening. Congratulations, Zoltan.
Thank you very much, Helen. I appreciate your help, and thank you everyone for coming.
Thanks, Zoltan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.